If we don't address our shadow or shame around finances, we're literally blocking money from coming through because we're not living in our whole, most worthy, authentic selves. When we get all that away, bam, we have money. From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips. As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Today we have a really fun episode called Best in Class. So this is a new sort of format episode we're going to be doing on the podcast, and we have so many years now of content around certain subjects that we thought it'd be great to put all of those tips together and create a heavy-hitting episode around specific themes. So today's theme is going to be all around money. We did an episode similar to this in February around love and relationships, and you guys absolutely loved that episode. So we wanted to create a few more best-in-class episodes to really not only be a refresher to things, but bring all of the best heavy-hitting information into one place. And it's so fascinating how you can hear older pieces. I was going through, all of the older money episodes and money supporteds and all of that when we were putting together this episode. And it's so interesting how hearing it all side by side can really ignite something new in your mind as you're thinking about this topic and how it applies to what's happening in your life. So I hope you guys enjoy.
And now, a word from our partners. So when we made the decision to bring on partners to partner with on this podcast to take it to the next level so that we could bring on even greater experts than we have recently, one of the main ones we've been talking about lately that I personally have been mentioning for the last 2 years is Blue Blocks, the blue and green light blocking company. I have 2 episodes with the founder, Andy Mann, and I've shared that I own 4 of their products that I've bought with my own money. That's the yellow glasses for daytime when it's overcast or rainy. So if you live in the UK or the Pacific Northwest, it's especially good for you. So of course, it was a no-brainer to partner with Blue Blocks. But for perspective, just one thing that I want to bring to your attention is how blue light's affecting you in general. And one of the major ways that nobody's really aware of is that blue light and green light are emitting from most of the devices that you're using daily. Certainly your computer, your phone, but things you don't even realize, like the clock on your oven or the lights on your Wi-Fi device. They're everywhere. So if you're somebody who suffers from any type of sleep troubles whatsoever, hormone issues, and you're noticing rapid aging, blue light blocking is vital for you. So I've mentioned the type of glasses, but they also have light bulbs, especially the Lumi Sleep. So one to have at night in your home in place of the traditional LED, which is littered with blue light. The light bulbs are also available in their product line. They also have a new red light device called the Hive, which is a more accessible red light and near infrared light therapy that's been scientifically proven in peer-reviewed clinical trials to have anti-aging effects on our skin help with neurological diseases, fight depression and anxiety, increase fat loss, speed recovery from exercise, improve your sleep, increase strength and endurance, and combat some autoimmune conditions. I personally have quite a few infrared light therapy devices, such as mats or saunas, but this one's actually red light and infrared. And we get into the benefits of red light in that particular episode that's linked below, and how it is such an important healing force from the sun to help us with most of the things I just listed. And why the Hive is so interesting and specific is that it has non-flickering, low EMF, high-powered LEDs, whereas a lot of, say, the infrared saunas out there are high EMF and they flicker. So this device in particular is handheld and much more accessible than most of those bigger mats and saunas and all of those great things. So if you want to learn more about Blue Blocks, go ahead and check the link below. Listen to that episode. It'll blow your mind. You'll notice your sleep transforming immediately, just starting with the glasses. And if you want to give any of their products a try, use the code, all caps, magnetic, MAGNETIC, for 15% off your purchase. So there's one product that our marketing director has been telling us about for ages, Grace, who isn't really a very big supplementy person, so I trust her. And she's definitely the ultimate consumer. She does try a lot of things. And I personally stopped taking any form of probiotics quite a bit ago due to not only the Bean protocol, like going off all supplements, but once I heard her talking about it and knowing that in pregnancy, my group B strep test would be coming up. For those of you who don't know, it's a pretty important test that happens later in pregnancy, and you're birthing at a hospital, as I may be doing. You do have to be on a form of antibiotics or penicillin. And so I was really, really trying to make sure that my gut was in the best place possible. So I gave Seed Probiotics a try. There are so many things I want to say about this company that I love. So I'm going to start with the highlights that I think are the most interesting. So I love that it's not a traditional supplement pill. I stopped any form of those a long time ago with the Bean protocol, like I mentioned. But what's really going on there is that it's a 2-in-1 capsule, meaning that the outer part is a prebiotic to ensure that it makes it fully past your bile and stomach acid. So it's the only probiotic that has a 100% survival rate, whereas most of its competitors and other probiotics out there only have about 20% that make it to the colon. And that's the prebiotic on the outside. So prebiotic feeds any of our already healthy bacteria, making it not your normal everyday capsule. And then the inner part of it is the actual probiotic, which has 24 strains, 53.6 AFU, more accurate than CFU, and covers the full spectrum of everything that you need in a probiotic. It's the first that's 100% scientifically backed to prove that. And just for a tiny tidbit that's so interesting is Dr. Gregory Reed, who is on their science board, chief scientist, because they have a really extensive science board. He's the one who originally coined the term probiotic way back when it was being discovered. And that's who's backing up this incredible product. And not to get too sciencey, but it's the stuff I really appreciate out there when there isn't actually a lot of regulation that occurs with supplements that can be on the market inside of health food stores, for instance, that this particular probiotic has been clinically studied in 16 strain-specific, double-blind, placebo-controlled, published human studies, as well as 13 in vitro, ex vitro mechanistic studies. So that means that it's been extremely vetted and studied, whereas again, most herbs and products that you just get on the health food store don't have that. Another thing that I do, of course, is eat fermented foods. However, with this, you know that you're covered with the full spectrum of probiotics that your body needs, which have been shown to drastically improve candida, SIBO, leaky gut, et cetera, et cetera. And just to finish out my story of my test, it did come up negative. I can't say that it was because of this product, but as I was really prepping for it to ensure that hopefully I could go through a birth without any form of antibiotic or penicillin, I'm really grateful to have had this tool in my tool belt. So for anybody who's out there looking for a probiotic that has been scientifically tested, the bacteria makes it 100% to your colon, also having a prebiotic inside of it to feed the already healthy bacteria to grow further and have a better synthesis for folate and B12, go ahead and check out Seed Probiotic. Next time when I talk about them, I'll get into how crazy and incredible their sustainability program is with their packaging, but I'll save that till then. Go ahead and use the code, all caps, TBM15 to receive 15% off your first month. Again, that's TBM15 to receive 15% off your first month. All right, on to the episode.
So today our episode is all about money, which actually brings me to a manifestation story I discovered recently around money and how I discovered my patterning and a new way to approach looking at abundance and lack. So I had written on my list that I wanted to manifest a new income portal. So I started getting tests right away. The tests originally came through exactly in money. So it was outside expenses, which is always a big one for me. It was, I budgeted perfectly for friends' weddings, and then unexpected costs would come up, the week of, whether it's changing a hotel or eating at restaurants expenses, whatever it were, all these new things were adding in. So the budget wound up being higher than anticipated. And in the past, that would have kind of thrown me into a tizzy. But instead, this time I was able to see it as a test to say, are you comfortable spending beyond what you thought you were going to spend, which is always a trigger for me. When I was facing these things coming up, I would go into the prosperity DI or I would go into the triggers DI and I would reprogram. You can spend money that's unexpected. It doesn't have to be so budgeted. It doesn't have to be so perfected. You're safe. Your savings isn't going anywhere. You're not going to go into debt. Everything's okay. You're allowed to spend outside of your very strict, controlled, budgeted parameters. My authentic self was not micromanaging her budget. So I started taking aligned action from this place to show myself, just like I was saying to myself in the DI, I'm safe to spend outside of my budget. I had to do that in real life. So I started spending more on coffee, more on groceries. I started opting into the things in life that felt good. When fancy dinners would come up that I would usually say no to because I thought it was a waste and I'd rather save money, I said yes, I should enjoy myself. I deserve to enjoy myself and feel good. And I really felt safe doing so. On the other side of it, some months I went over budget and I was still okay. So I was really reinforcing what I was working on in the DIs. I was also super expanded at the time. I was looking at all of the people close to me who had a new job opportunity come through, a new income portal, a new investment, these large numbers of salary that, I wanted to call in and work towards, and noticing how much abundance was actually surrounding me. After a few weeks of this, I could really feel that my manifestation was close. And then I got back from a trip and I felt super sick. And typically in the past, I would try to tough it out, only call out on a sick day if it was absolutely necessary and I was really down in the dumps. But I felt my body needed rest and self-care. So the night before, I preemptively called out of work, which is something I never do. And my body had so much rest that night. I was able to go to bed early. I think I got 12 hours of sleep and felt 100% better the next day. I continued to give myself that rest for the rest of the week and really double down on my self-care and giving myself what I needed without justifying or budgeting my time in that way. And within 48 hours of taking that dedicated action towards self-care, I got a phone call that a portal had opened up in the exact amount I was calling in. It felt like magic. It was complete ease. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't take any action that exact week except for continuing to work on the DIs and giving myself self-care. And I think one of the biggest takeaways of this portal opening and feeling spontaneous, like it dropped from the sky, it was all of the work leading up to it. I also recognize, which is so important when doing this manifestation work, to understand your patterning. Yes, I had a lot of limitations. My blocks were around control and around releasing this budgetary fake safety I was creating for myself. But another element to me manifesting abundance is self-care. The final thing that took it over the edge was, do you feel worthy enough to put your self-care first? And when the answer was yes, the universe said, great, let's give you stuff to help support you on that journey. So I hope that was helpful in navigating the energetics and also noticing where you may be manifesting in one specific topic. Let's say you're working through unblocked money. Part of manifesting that money might have to do with self-care. It might have to do with boundaries for other people. It might have to do with relationships for others. Try to find those other elements that really help super speed your manifestations by hitting it from all angles. So I hope that was helpful, and I know you guys are going to love this episode. So without further ado, here is Best in Class Money. Your worth is non-negotiable. Your income or your circumstances may change, but your worth is inherent. A lot of times with money, because it does correlate to your self-worth so much, I think it's important to just kind of put out there that you're inherently worthy, and it's all of the programming and conditioning that's put on you that makes you feel otherwise. And it's totally able to shed all of those beliefs and programming and to get back into your worthy state, which will in tune help your net worth.
Absolutely. And we hear this language a lot in manifestation. We're naturally abundant. We're innately abundant. But that's really abstract. Even if it's intellectualized, it's like, cool, how is that tangible? How can I actually see the benefits of that and reap what I've sowed from it, essentially? All of us are uniquely abundant. Each of us came into the world totally, authentically whole and worthy. And within that means abundant, worthy of love, worthy of whatever abundance looks like for us. And that looks like for us point is super important because each of us have a different core essence. Money looks so different for every person and what they desire from it, especially like what you said, Jessica, when we start to peel this onion layer away of what society has told us we want money for, what our families told us we want money for, what our exes have made us long for money for, out of shadow, out of pain, out of trauma. And we really start to peel that away and get into our true core essence, our authentic code of what we want money for. And then, it's all about the expansion around it, the portals around it. And that's when the magic starts to happen. But we each innately have that. And yours could look totally different from mine. It's all innate within us. It's just really understanding that core essence, peeling the layers back that defy or project that we're not worthy of it, expanding and opening the portals for it, and therefore, of course, being in our worth and turning down, delegating or detoxing anything that doesn't align with it.
How to identify you're in a lack mindset. Your family was always worried about money. You feel anxious about spending money or even on necessities. You don't believe financial abundance is possible for you. And then you judge others' spending habits. You could be at any income level and have a lack mindset.
Anywhere you're conflicting with exactly what you desire, you're acting in a way that is an opposition of it, you are in a lack mindset. Even if you are having the obvious lack mentality around money, finance, career, if you're also having it in other aspects of your life where you're in opposition of what you deserve and desire from a very core place, that's lack mentality too. And you're also then communicating to the universe that you're not worthy of money in career, security, anything to do with finances. So just being very aware of that. I think a really easy key place to distill back down to is, who am I from a core place? What do I desire? And am I in opposition with that, with my actions, with my words, how I'm navigating life? Because that's lack mentality.
For example, for me, when lack comes up, or where it has come up definitely in the past, is I remember when I first moved to New York City, and it was like pretty recently after college, and all of our friends went out to dinner, and I remember spending $50 on this dinner. And I had, money saved, and I was working for a job, but for some reason, I had never spent myself $50 for my own meal on a dinner yet. And I was such a budgeter. I've always been such a budgeter. I know what's going in, what's going out. And I was like, where does this fall in my budget? There's this $50 that like for dinner, like how could I have spent that? Which like now is so crazy thinking about. But at the time my body was like panicked, like fearful of like, oh my gosh, I'm spending beyond my means. Meanwhile, if I looked at what my income was, how much I had on rent, I was still saving money. So it technically wasn't beyond my means. But at the time, it viscerally hit me in my body of like, no, you have to hold on to your money, hold on to your money. You shouldn't spend it frivolously like that, which are all things I had to unblock and go through. But what can happen sometimes is when people are shifting from lack to abundance, they say, okay, I'm scared to spend $50, well, I'm going to spend $250. And there's a balance between going into debt and doing something that actually isn't in alignment or isn't going to empower you, is just a bad financial decision, versus paying for something that you can actually afford and feeling secure doing it. It's getting back into a secure stance with money. Lack can also come up when there's unexpected payments. For some people, that's bills or debt, or their student loans kick in, or their mortgage kicks in at a higher rate, or it's wherever that unexpected payment comes in that can trigger lack for a lot of people. I remember having like friends' weddings pop up and not realizing that they actually cost like thousands of dollars to attend. And I remember going through my friend's first wedding and, oh my gosh, like, can I afford this? What am I doing? All of the fear comes back in, but it's kind of what you're saying, the same exact energetics of here's this unexpected thing that's shown up. I can either deal with it and like stay small and go into lack and freak out, or I can look at it head on and unpack why it's coming up for me so strong. Is it a test? Is this a trigger that I need to get more comfortable in my financial worth? Is this telling me I need to start opening portals and be more financially stable? It's really a time when those fear moments come up to examine how you can really step up to like the next version of you.
How do we not get trapped in, I'm not enough because I don't have enough, and if I get more, I'll be happy, and never being satisfied with what you have and always chasing the next million and all of that? But most people that achieve those degrees of success, they're like, if I'm making, $1 million, whatever a year, I need to get up to 2 to 5 to 10. And there's this never ending chase cat and mouse thing going on with material success.
So there's a couple of ways that I want to unpack this because it's so important. Number one, as physical beings in the physical plane, we physically deserve and are worthy of having anything we physically need in this lifetime. The other part that I want to say about this is it's a natural human craving to continue to want to grow and have more and more. I wish everybody could manifest and materialize every physical thing they want. Like financial brings freedom, essentially, at the end of it. That's what we're all craving, is the freedom to live the values of life that you want. But I wish everybody would manifest all of the physical they want, because the moment that they really get there, like you, when they're really in pursuit of growth in themselves, the moment they get there, they're like, it all kind of doesn't really matter. Now I can actually ask myself the bigger questions of what's the meaning of life? What do I really want? Yada, yada. So that's why it's like, I love empowering people to have anything they want, because when we live in Los Angeles and when we aren't a monk who is meditating all day for detachment, but we actually are physical beings that are engaging with physical life and society. Let's say in Los Angeles, we are going to continue to want for things. So I would rather people actually get their wants met, because that's when they can truly ask themselves the deeper philosophical questions of life they've been desiring to ask themselves. I even had this moment when I was driving up to the retreat house because I come from nothing. I come from two super broke young parents who didn't know what the fuck they were doing at 18 when they had me. I moved from apartment to apartment. It wasn't uncommon to come home, and like my mom couldn't pay for storage, and so my toys were gone. And I moved every year and a half. Like it was wild, and then of course my mom struggled with addiction. And even though she's the most incredible and powerful woman in the world, but I come from absolutely nothing. And I've lived my whole life in survival mode, constantly survival, what to do. I was low self-worth, so I had to figure all that out. I come from my own crazy cycles, but I had this moment driving up to the retreat house after it closed, and I went, wow, all of my needs are met. I'm not in survival for anything in my life anymore, nothing. And I went, whoa. What's the meaning of life? Like, what is now the real meaning? I could actually get super philosophical because I was no longer totally in the physical of wanting. So I just want to really give people that licensing. Everybody's wanting is different. There's a core reason beneath why we want anything we want. And it would really surprise you when you start to deduce it down that it really has very little to do with the actual physical item. It's important to identify where we are in the spiritual spectrum.
Right.
So it's really important, I think, to get very, very clear on our identity, our core soul authentic wants and needs, and then to start to literally subconsciously detox any of the other things. And I would argue when you get to the place where you desire to be, those older models or those, not older models, but those influences you had spiritually will start to creep back in and have far deeper meaning in that place. And Jim Carrey, I think, even had that quote where he was like, I wish everybody would get everything they've ever wanted to realize it's not at all what life's about. But how do we really know until we have those X, Y, and Z that we desired to want? So I just want to give licensing to people. It is so okay to want as a physical being in the material plane. And if you subconsciously are feeling any guilt or undeservingness of it, there's bam, block number one in money, period. So it's like you have to get pretty clear. What do you want? Do you want abundance or do you want to live in guilt and undeservingness of it? Because all manifestation is at the end of the day is they're energetics. It's just energetics. It's learning how to master and harness energetics through your subconscious, through neuroscience.
Here's the thing. It's funny. It's like, of course, earlier in life when I had aspirations to be a rock star and I was playing in bands in Hollywood, I mean, I had nothing else to rest any sort of hope on. As I started growing spiritually, it was a natural consequence that I started to achieve more success financially, and I built a nice career. But I've really been more concerned about the inner growth and personal work, and the career is just like, oh, that's interesting. Wow, I keep watching myself. I mean, I've made more money every year of my life for a long time. It's not where I want it to be, but I just kind of like did the work that was necessary, but I've been all about the inner work.
Even though in the energetics of talking like that, when we are manifesting, again, it's from the subconscious. So we're working again with the clarity of the subconscious. And one of the first things you learn, like I have the Formula Magnetism workshop, literally teaches you step by step how to manifest. And one of the main things I teach in it is it's so important to call from your core essence of needs, your totally true, authentic self. I'm very lenient about ego, man. Ego is not, to me, egoless, being like a monk in the Himalayas meditating. It's about getting rid of any of the exterior validations that you're using just to fill you up and getting very clear about what you are craving inside and what you need. So like a very simple thing that you didn't realize at the time when you were young and you're like, I want that $2 million advance. There were probably a lot of exterior validational things going on there. Many, I'm sure, because you hadn't dealt with a lot of your demons. But most importantly, you were craving safety and security. That's all you were craving, And so when we can get very clear about those specific core wants and we start to manifest from specificity, because like even now in saying it makes no difference. Again, your words make no difference in what you manifest whatsoever. You can throw all of that away. Anything that is imprinted in your subconscious is completely what's determining it. But even I can tell the energetics of what's going on below based on just saying like, I just want organic food and I want this and that. When we are wishy-washy and not super clear on our core wants and needs within the realm of belief, again, because we have to go out and find expanders to keep opening our subconscious more and more and more for more space. But within the realm of belief, if we're like, universe, I don't, and what we are communicating and projecting subconsciously, the pure energetic is like, I'm probably not worth it and I don't deserve it, but I'll take the little I can get. That's all that's being projected. So the universe is like, cool, here you go. That's the little, I gotcha. No problem. But when we can start to work with our subconscious, again, like unblocked opulence is a great place to start looking. Where does all of that live in our subconscious? So it is so important if you're going to be working on manifesting money that you start to get very clear on what you want from your core essence needs. Like for me, again, money is completely safety and freedom. So I can be completely creatively free. Meaning I can just channel, I can serve, I can delegate anything that I don't need to be doing so I can do more of that to help the most amount of people. Therefore, I'm rewarded over and over and over and over again because I'm so clear on my needs. Now, it's not to externally validate me, but I crave like this bigger life because those are the things I need to accomplish. And this is the support I need. So getting very, very clear on what those core essence needs are. So for you, it sounds like it's wanting freedom, it's wanting safety. And to me, if freedom sounds like me, it's one of your bigger things. So if we get really clear and we're like, no, universe, I want X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go expand to go and find that through expanders. And then I'm going to start to carve out and work on the self-worth below that's shouting out like, no, I'm not worth it. I don't deserve this. I have guilt. I'm not good enough. When we get all that away, bam, we have money.
But what has happened for me, and I'm just starting to realize this, because I am comfortable and I'm safe and I'm secure and I finally have no debt in my life. And
Right.
and then I think, well, I want to take it to the next level. And, let's just say you put a number on it. Like I said, okay,
Yeah.
I want a net income of $100,000 a month.
Totally.
Just do whatever with, which isn't even really really that much. It
Not in
probably
LA, it's not.
sounds like a lot to some
No.
people, but it's not really because
It's $1 million or it's 1.2 million a year.
here's what I'm getting at, though, is I'm starting to have this breakthrough where manifesting on the physical and specifically with money is part of my spiritual lesson.
Yeah. Oh,
And
totally.
it's part of this incarnation.
It's
like
what's teaching
I used to
you.
look at like Osho and I was like, oh, those guys are fake ass. Like
Yeah.
they have all these cars and stuff. Like, ew, gross. What a fake teacher.
Totally.
Now I'm realizing like, no, they're learning how to play in that
They're
realm.
playing the game.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been kind of reframing that. And now it's like, no, I really feel that as a soul, there's what I'm to learn. The first part of it was like a spiritual principle that you don't buy something you don't actually have the money for.
Yeah. Oh, great. That's a great
Which
lesson.
is called credit cards.
Yeah.
And that took me about 40 years to learn.
Huge.
And
yeah.
now I literally don't buy anything unless
Perfect.
I have the cash money.
Any manifestation practice that's like, go out and buy the outfit you want in order to feel more abundant. That's a great way to go in debt. So I'm so happy you're talking about that because that's not the way to go about this.
And it's not like, oh, I need to not debt so I can have the house or the Ferrari. It's just like, oh no, this is a spiritual principle. I've been breaking spiritual laws. So that is not like, oh, it's not a practical thing that I need to sort out. It's like, no, my soul needs to learn how to work with those principles of that. So, okay, cool. I have grown. I stopped that shit. I'm good.
Yeah.
Now it's my soul in this incarnation having those subconscious limiting beliefs and low self-worth and thinking those people up in the Hollywood Hills, when I look at those lights from here, like they have something I don't have. They've figured out, they have the secret code, or they're smarter or more talented or more deserving or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's the spiritual growth is to overcome that.
1000%.
And then I'm sitting in a big dumb house going, okay, this was an interesting experiment in playing with reality and warping reality.
And you're going to be like, now that I'm here, I'm not any happier than I was when I was down in West Hollywood in my apartment.
And I've experienced that. It's funny. I was living in a home of my dreams in the Hollywood Hills. I lived there with my girlfriend at the time, and then we broke up. She bounced, and I'm sitting in a house, like house of my dreams. And I was leasing it, but still, it was still the house of my dreams to lease. And she was gone, and I was so heartbroken, and I would just sit there and cry. I would just bawl. And I was like, God, it doesn't matter what fucking house I'm in right now. My heart is broken and aching. And I don't care what yacht you put me on. Like nothing's going to undo that. And it was a great experience to have that I could still, and even just aside from a heartbreak, just sometimes feeling pissed off or crazy or in fear or emotionally out of balance or unstable, and being in that house made no difference.
Not at all. Never will.
Yeah,
Being in the car won't.
Yeah.
But we hear that and we go like, well, then we shouldn't want, or that's next year validation. And I actually am the opposite. I'm like, get it and realize it still doesn't do anything for you. Now your pursuit of spiritual work can go like on super drive because you're not wanting for things really anymore.
Right.
So you're like, well, let's want to make myself whole.
Right. So going back to what you're saying earlier, that some people, strive for the material success and then they arrive there and go, oh God, this is it. I thought this was going to fix me and it didn't fix me. Then they go inward and go spiritual. My journey's almost reverse of that in a sense, where I went inward, gone spiritual, working on that. And then the manifestation of the material and the money is it's just like, hey, let me see if I can play with this reality.
It's just waiting for you to tap in. That's
and just kind of do this quantum juggling of it and go, oh wow, gold, riches, diamonds. This is. It's like
whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, it's just like a toy to just like play with reality. Right?
Totally. It's like a mockingbird.
But there's no way that I could understand that, though. There's no way that I could understand that unless I had sort of gone through. I mean, I just turned 48, so I've gone through a lot of different cycles. And now I see those guys, those specific gurus that chose to play with that realm. I go, oh, okay, I get why.
But going back to, I think a really important distinction there is to make, and it's kind of looping back to a cycle of what we talked about. There are really two Eastern, this is a major generalization, but two Eastern energetic philosophies going on. We have the philosophy of detachment, right? Because, Buddha was a prince and had all the riches and all the things. And he went and figured out after having all the things, he became enlightened, realizing it meant nothing. So he was going to go to pure detachment to really understand what it meant to be fully present. Now, when you're going more to kind of, and this is a generalization, but you're dealing with more of the, you're playing into mysticism. So even if it's alchemy of sexuality, you're playing with the mysticism of how to make this the most orgasmic and pleasurable experience out there. They are wanting to tap into all of the pleasures of life in a way to reach enlightenment. You have another form that's detaching and not needing of anything to reach enlightenment. So it's like you just kind of get to choose which journey you want to go on, or you can swap, but don't be doing both at once if you're manifesting, because it's wishy-washy. When we harness the energy of being in full surrender or in the pursuit of surrender, we also can navigate it. I do that constantly. I'm like, my greatest will here is to help as many people as I can to empower them that they can have anything they want. God, universe, if I do this, if I show up and I dedicate my life to that, I need all of my physical needs taken care of, because when I was young, I didn't have most of them taken care of. And that is my karma, if you will. That's what I'm choosing my karma is in my adult life. I want to have as cushy and as happy of a life as possible. I want to have as much delegated as possible so I can focus on that. I also love, as you do, fashion is a huge expression of mine. So are collecting and curating items in my life. It's an expression. It's like an art form to me. I've owned that a long time ago. A lot of people would have a problem with that too, that's like a material issue. It's not. If you get very clear, again, at what your core wants to project in this life, not what you think will fill you on the outside, but again, what your core needs to fully project itself, then you'll start to materialize those things as well. They won't be for validation. They'll be for expression, for navigation, for pursuit to take you further on the spiritual journey. So that's why it's like the surrender is a great thing, but also include these are my needs that I also need met.
The way that I'm framing it now is surrendered life, but surrendered action, taking action and moving forward.
And most importantly, that I deserve it and it's not bad to want it. Those are the two energetics you're not working with right now. Because when you're able to kick those into the right subconscious gear, it's all going to flow. If you're expanded.
It's so funny because when you say I deserve it,
you even probably cringe.
In milliseconds, my mind is like, who the fuck do you think you are?
That's why you're not manifesting it enough. Yeah. That's what will open up literally the faucet. So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest. Unblocked Inner Child, and Unblocked Shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode.
Hi there, I'm a designer and home stager. I'm wondering about the energetics of taking on debt to start a business. I'm currently debt-free, yay, but it scares me to think about taking on new debt to start my business. Any thoughts on how to navigate this?
I actually have a good friend that does just this, and I don't think she went into debt. I think with each job, she would maybe put a little bit on her credit card or she would rent things as well. But then as she continued to open the portal and get more and more work, she added to her collection that she kept in storage. So I think there's a creative way to go about it. I don't think you have to go all or nothing in.
I would definitely recommend going through Unblock Money. And I think when it comes to debt or borrowing money to launch the company, getting clarity on what feels aligned with you in this career path and what feels like you're going overboard and overcompensating for status or to be a level higher than you're at. And then I would also look at your money expanders. Who are people who have done this and needed to perhaps take on debt, and what did that look like for them? And were they successful in getting out of debt after doing that? I think that's going to be really important right now.
And even my stepmom, who's a real estate agent, she does this, but she goes, thrifting constantly and to estate sales and Etsy and Craigslist. And she's really collected secondhand. And then also my other friend that I know that used to do this, half her house was always missing because it was staged out, right? Like her own furniture was always staged out. So I also think taking that pressure off yourself that you feel like you have to go all in and buy everything at once, collect your expanders that are nailing this and killing it, and they're collecting along the way, so it's not this crazy debt that you're accruing.
Heather, this next one's for you. Savings account versus an FU fund. My question is regarding the energetics behind savings versus an FU fund. I'm currently calling in a new career change, and my FU fund is slowly dwindling. I have a separate savings account that I didn't want to touch as I have upcoming investments already planned to use the money for. However, the money's not needed until much later, 2021, 2022, or even 2023. Am I blocking myself with holding on to this money? I find I consistently stress out about getting money and a job, but then I remember I have this money and feel like I am in limbo between having money and not being able to use it. Thank you so much.
So I've done the exact same thing. I had a savings due to having a lack mentality, and I pretended it wasn't there. And instead of allowing myself to feel at ease with the finances that I actually had, I chose to struggle when it really wasn't necessary. And that to me is what this person is doing. It's living in lack still. It's the fact that you do have this cushion and you are restricting it, whether it's this idea to restrict to earn, whatever your looping story is that this idea that you're in limbo, it's because you're not allowing yourself to feel security or safety, whatever that may be with this money. So the fact that this person is holding on to it kind of like for the rainy day of 2021, 22, 23, you have that. So why would you allow yourself to struggle in this moment when you could have financial ease, which would open up portals to bring something in because you no longer are focusing on what you don't have versus what you do have. So to me, not touching it is basically saying to the universe that you don't trust that more will come in. By trusting yourself to use some of this money is really sending an energetic message to the universe that now more will come in because you trust yourself with what you currently have.
It's this addiction I feel like a lot of us have with the melodrama of creating something where it doesn't need to be, instead of just accepting either our abundance in, any avenue, whether that's finances or elsewhere, and really welcoming that and making choices that are aligned with our authentic codes. And the money is that transaction for the aligned purpose or whatever, you're creating or doing.
A lot of times people lean into lack because they're so afraid of being careless with money. And they're like, I have to be smart and save it this way or handle it this way because I don't want to be frivolous and I don't want to like blow all the money and be irresponsible with money. And so they lean so far into lack. Instead, they're kind of somewhere in between. They're in that ease spot where, no, they're not going to blow all their money in one day on something, but they can be safer taking a quote unquote, what they might consider a risk in utilizing that savings account.
Well, and this really comes down to trust. That like, if you weren't taught to trust yourself in general, not just with money, and I find that with a lot of my clients, is this rooted in reality or is this rooted in fear?
Seen as cheap. What are the energetics around fear of being seen as cheap? I'm a first-time business owner yet to open due to COVID-19. In quite a bit of business debt, uphill battles, landlord permits, delays, but I feel as though I'm on my authentic path. I gave up everything, retirement savings, to pursue this long-term dream of mine. I've been unblocking quite a bit in inner child and shadow, but I can't quite get to the memory or understanding of how to release being seen as cheap and how to get in my grace about this. I am not in fear of the future success of the business. I believe I might be sitting in a magic dark.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the seen as cheap is certainly a shadow we picked up somewhere, right? So it's either something we were mortified about, witnessing somebody growing up. So it didn't have to certainly be our parents. It could have been, we were mortified when we saw, our uncle bartering with someone. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's a cultural thing. If they grew up in a certain culture that barters, whereas Americans, it's really hard for us to negotiate. They could have picked up that was cheap. So this is a shadow element here that you picked up somewhere. You just haven't quite put your finger on it yet. I'd certainly be taking the specific feeling and thought. I would take it directly through the shadow and inner child DRE. Even what I'm saying now should instigate and loosen up your subconscious, but it's definitely a shadow element. You picked it up somewhere. It didn't have to directly be your parents. So looking culturally, looking at media, like where is this element that because you're bootstrapping it right now, starting your company, that you're not good enough or that you're not worth it. That's really where I would be looking. And I hope that starts to loosen up where this could really be living.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you put so much into it and it feels authentic, like you feel like you're on your authentic path and you're not sort of doing all of these things for your career as sort of a way to get validation or outside validation. If it truly feels authentic, then I think the main thing here is just going through that shadow and loosening the grip on needing other people to see you in a certain light. Okay, Salwa, fear of finances. As a student, I'm in a stage of life where I'm gathering experience of education in order to create and do the work in the world that I'm here to do. Unfortunately, this means that my energy is mostly directed to education and not into how to have money portals to increase or even build my finances. This can leave me feeling a lack of magnetism because I'm 31 and trying to move towards my dreams with education, simultaneously moving further from building my income and going into debt. This can put me into freeze survival mode a lot because I freak out and think I'm 31, I'm going negative with finances, not building them. I'm curious about insight into the energetics and how I can still open money portals while not having a lot of time or energy to put towards them.
The first thing that comes to me is, especially the last sentence, which is not having a lot of time to put towards them. And I want to point out that I think this person actually does have time. And energetically, a lot of that time and effort is being put towards freaking out, right? Like, oh my gosh, debt, and I think we overlook how much energetic space and time that actually uses up. And if this person was actually able to release some of that, be more trusting in their choice, right? Like they are a student, they're investing in themselves and they're investing into future money portals and feeling strong within that choice, and like really settling and breathing into that and releasing the like, I don't have enough time, because that time is actually just not being well spent, I think, energetically. It really needs to be about, how much time does this person actually have? What is your schedule? How much do you study every week? So I think it would be really great for this person to kind of get a little realistic and say, okay, this is my schedule. This is how much time I have to study, how much time I need to study, and how much time is left over, in order to really give some breathing room into, okay, actually, I do have time for a money portal, which could be, maybe it's an online TA course, or maybe it's a bridge job to help with those finances so that they don't feel like they're not having any money come in. And I think being able to release some of that, lack mentality and energy will actually allow ideas to surface that really fits into this person's schedule and how they're investing in their future by being a student. I would ask this person to check into where they're dependent on money in other ways, like whether that's a family member or a partner, where they're latching on to that they think they can't create the money and the portal and they're relying on other people, and how they can start to take back their power and not having that financial support from others. I would want to know where else they're reliant on money, because I think that'll help create some more space, energetic space, for them to create their own job and income on their own.
I would say my bigger incentives for wanting to know what to do with money when I have it one day was so that I could have freedom to enjoy the things I love. But I always dream bigger because, like understanding manifestation, I always knew I could have more. And I think this is really important for everybody listening right now. Dream bigger.
Yeah.
That is so important, because there will be a time, if there's movement, if there's action, if you're being creative and thinking of new portals and acting out of your situation, you will have that opportunity. So I think this is a really, really strong message. When we start to harness that energy, that's that masculine worth energy, it's when we're our most in our power and we're not willing to bend or back down or settle. So to give an example of me, when I'm in my masculine worth energy, it's very directional. It knows what it wants. It doesn't back down to worth. It really stays in its value. So there isn't a lot of fluidity with it. There's creativity, of course.
It's very pragmatic. It seems logistical than other parts. And it's very unapologetic, I think is a good word for it. Mm-hmm. Whereas a feminine side might be a little bit more receptive or in the flow or not worried about anything. And the masculine side of me will come out with like, nope, I deserve this. This is what I'm offering. If not, fine, I'm going to walk away. Like, it's a very empowered, sort of unapologetic side.
That's a perfect empowered, unapologetic. That's fantastic. And I think something really important that we're both highlighting is this isn't an energy one has to be in all of the time. In fact, I've noticed the more unblocking I've done, the more my trust muscle has been strengthened. So again, a trust muscle is the more that you do this work, the more you manifest, the more you build your trust, like a muscle. So anytime I've up-leveled, I've really strengthened that trust muscle. And so two things. I think when we are doing that unblocking or strengthening that trust muscle through passing tests, it's like that masculine worth energy actually becomes innate in my subconscious. It's like it changes the imprintation of the old lack loops that we're looping and projecting out. I'm not in that energy all the time. It's actually most of the time I'm much more in my feminine now in different ways. It's when it comes down to when I'm being tested financially or with triggers, when I'm calling in something greater. Those two times, that's when I switch into it. And it's when I need it, but it's actually rare that I live in that energy. So that's something really important while starting to dive into this work in the money workshop, is that it's really about changing those old imprintations in our unconscious and really reprinting it with this new knowing, this new projection, and then knowing when we need to switch into it, when we're being tested, when we are calling in something, when we're up leveling. an edge always brings a trigger with it because it's scary. And I love the connection you gave that one can be avoidant, right? Those are the people that never want to look at their bank account. They are constantly taking themselves into debt and getting themselves in these experiences that they're avoidant and avoiding changing themselves into a more secure space. Whereas you have the attachment that's like overly cautious and frugal and all of the things. So they're needing to get back into a secure state. And that secure state energetically is what we're talking about. It's that whole, worthy, authentic, masculine worth energy. Wherever we have shadow or shame around money, that's a great roadmap to learn how we are actually trying to manifest exterior things to make us happy, rather than going from our core, like I said before, where it's just an expression or it's going to give me the root of freedom. We can lie to ourselves. But if we don't address our shame around finances and integrate, own that power again through the shadow workshop, we're literally blocking money from coming through because we're not living in our whole, most worthy, authentic selves. That's where true magnetism lies. So it's a really big one to start to really get honest with ourselves consciously, but most importantly, subconsciously, and shift it wherever there was shame around money. The more we grew up in poverty and we grew up with parents or community that was modeling like, you'll always be a waiter, you'll always be this, or you always, the more we grew up with that, the more we need expanding, the more we need to grow our worth. Otherwise, all that's looping in our reptilian, limbic, subconscious brain is like, nope, that's the way it goes and that's what's going to be safe. That's why the process that I work with people is all through neuroplasticity, because we literally can completely transform our brain. It's great. We have the science to back that up, and we have the capability through reaching hypnotic states to go down there and completely transform it. So it's the finding the expanders and getting rid of the low self-worth on the subconscious level, and then turning that into deservingness on a subconscious level. When it comes to manifesting money, the three most important things, if I were to break it down to anything, is that number one, we are expanded enough. So we have enough people in our lives that we truly identify with that are doing what we want to be doing, So for instance, are making money in the ways that we see to believe is possible for us to make money in that same way, which opulence teaches you. So that's number one of the most important things. You have to be expanded in order to have space for it to come through. So even if you go deal with the other two things I'm going to talk about, if you're like this on a subconscious, it literally can't come in. If you haven't seen to believe what you want is possible, there's no space for it to come through. That's where you create kind of what I call like a magnetism bank account. It's just waiting for you to get your shit together, opening that space for it to come through. So the second, bar none, the most important thing is that on a subconscious level, you feel deserving of what you're asking for. And it's not something you can fake to make. It's not something you can think positive. It's not something you can affirm over and over again. It's literally going down in a subconscious hypnotic state and dealing with your demons. Anything you picked up from modeling that reflects back why you, through pain, shame, whatever, aren't worthy of that money. When people say that positivity is the law of attraction or being in the vortex, nothing could be more incorrect with manifestation. I can give you 100% guaranteed stamp on this. What is the actual magnetic force that brings what we want to us is on a subconscious level, we feel worthy of it. So meaning that we are like totally in our worth, getting rid of anything that makes us small, not in our worth, out of our way, and totally in a pillar of worth is actually what magnetizes what we want to us. So that's why I call the process unblocking, like unblocking all of this imprintation that makes us feel unworthy. And if you want to take that magnetism to the next level, that magnetic force, get deserving on a subconscious level for what you want. Like, I deserve this. And it's, again, not something you can affirm, not something you can think positive to. You literally have to go down and do the work on it. And then the third most important thing is that you're passing tests, which again is in the formula of magnetism. But that means the universe will always test you, always. When you have been, like, let's say, settling in financial situations, maybe you aren't charging as much as you should be for something, or whatever the case is, that you're settling. The next opportunity that's going to come through is usually going to try to test you. It's going to look a lot like the last thing, but with a little bit more money, but it's definitely not the right sponsorship or partnership or whatever. And when we take it, that's when we're communicating to the universe, oh, I don't believe that you'll send me the exact thing that I want. So I'm going to settle and just take what I can get for security. So that's just a form of testing. So those are the three most important things: expansion, subconscious worth on a subconscious level, and then passing test. It's really so simple when you get down to it.
Thank you so much for tuning into this special Best in Class Money episode. And I just want to note, in the episode, Lacy uses some of our older workshop names, since this is audio from a while ago. So when Lacy says the Formula and Magnetism workshop, that has been upgraded to our How to Manifest workshop. And when she says the Opulence workshop, that has been upgraded to our Unblocked Money course. Just some of our older workshop names are in there, since these episodes were from clips from a very long time ago, but the lessons and energetics are still so applicable and helpful. And now on to our 5-star winner for a 1-year free membership to the Pathway. If you want to be considered to be a winner for next month, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we will pick for the next month in August. This month's user is Julison, Julawson. Looking for my inner child. TBM lifted me out of an incredibly challenging time in my life. I am deeply indebted to Lacy and the team for all of their work. I left a toxic relationship at the start of the pandemic, and TBM really helped me understand why I was attracted to such an unavailable partner. I worked through inner child while I was living with my parents and had the opportunity to observe for the first time the unhealthy dynamics between them that had been passed down to me. Inner child allowed me to step into the role of the observer and figure out what patterns were holding me back. This process opened me up to a new relationship with an emotionally available partner. We've been together for over a year now, and this podcast has held my hand through the process, helping me face other issues that have popped up in my relationship, such as codependency and people-pleasing. I keep a picture of my younger self on my phone and look at it often, reminding myself of who I need to look out for. This work is challenging and confronting, but life-changing and extremely important. Thank you to the TBM team for making it all so accessible. Thank you so much for this beautiful review. And if this is your review and username, please contact our intercom on our website and get in touch with our customer service in order to claim your free 1-year membership to the Pathway. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.